Paul. I'm 16 years old, and I'm part of the Angular Material core team.
I'm Elad. I'm also part of the Material core team. We hope you'll have fun. So let's start. Close thing up. All right.
Make it bigger.
All right. So what we're basically going to do today is we're going to build a master detail view application from scratch using Material components, Material 2 components. And we basically want to have as many components as we can so you can feel how easy it is to create apps just like it. So we're going to use two modules. One is, of course, Angular Material, and the other one is called Flex Layout, which is basically a complete rewrite of the layout system from Material 1, if someone knows it. And thank you. It's a complete rewrite of the Flex Layout engine from Material 1. So you can have it everywhere. It's not coupled to Material 2 at all. You can have it on any Angular 2 application.
So we are planning on our wireframe. So we had like a toolbar on the top of our application, and we're going to have a sitenav layout or sitenav container that includes an MD sitenav and a list of user detailed user list and a user details list on the other side. You can see it here, and here's the sitenav. So that's what we're going to build, and at the end it will look like the following. So yeah. So for the workshop we created a tool, like a CLI tool, that allows you to switch to the different steps. So it's easy for you, if you can't follow, you can just switch to the next step and can follow up with us. And so
yeah, actually you should all run this command npm run workshop if you already cloned and npm installed the project. And make sure you're choosing step 0, because that way you'll be on track with us, right? So let's just talk about the initial setup.
So we just have a plain Angular CLI app provided. We just run ng-new and our project name, and it included all the HTML files and the module files. But for our project here, we just removed all the spec files, the tests, and the end-to-end tests, because we wanted to have a clear project structure for you guys. So, that's how it will look like. You will have like your index HTML file. We just changed the title here, as you can see. And yeah, we have our basic Angular module. We are having like the default Angular stuff included, like the browser module, the forms module, and the HTTP module. And we're going to bootstrap our app component. So yeah, that's our initial setup.
Yeah, the only thing we actually changed or added is a folder that you can see called assets. Maybe I can show it to you real quick. It's a folder called assets, which will have this avatars SVG that we're going to use later on. Beside of it, it's just clear Angular CLI install. So going back. So everyone, just make sure you have you're on step 0, and you're running, and all you can see is just like, let me do it real quick. All you can see is app works, just the regular regular Angular CLI install, right? So
yeah, let's open it another terminal.
Yeah, we can. All right.
So we are just showing you the workshop CLI, where you can switch through the different steps. If you open another terminal and you just run the workshop.
Oh, you want to see it? All right.
Yeah.
So
you can run it by using the following command, and it will open like a terminal menu where you can switch between the different steps. So you have we have 10 steps here. We will probably only be able to go to step 8, but as long as we have some extra minutes, we're going to take a look at step 9 and step 10. So please raise your hand if you are ready for step 1.
Cool. So you see Angular Material Workshop. That's the basic Angular CLI. So let's go to step 1. In step 1, what we're going to do is we're going to import the material module from Angular at Angular/material, and we're going to import the flex layout module. Since you already pulled the project and made npm install, then these two modules are already in your npm module, so you don't have to do it again. And just basically, we're going to go to our app module, and we're going to import material module out of at Angular/material and flex layout module out of at Angular flex layout. And we're also going to add this browser animation module. If you guys had to Matthias' presentation about the animations, so that basically gives you all the functionality of the animations, if you want it. Do you want to explain about the NoOp?
Yeah, so there are two different modules, the browser animations module and the NoOp animations module. The NoOp animations module is basically just without animations, it's just doing nothing, but still the callbacks are firing, and Material works without, with the NoOp animations module, and there will be just no animations, so you might want to use it if you're supporting like computers with low performance, so you don't want the animations, so that will work too.
So we're going to import those three. We're going to use it in the imports of our ng module, and we're going to add some styles to our main CSS file, and we're going to import three things. The first line is the pre-built theme Indigo Pink, and that's because unlike Material 1, we don't include a build system for a theme. So you won't get, you can't generate a theme on the fly. So we thought in Material 2 that we want to have the themes pre-built. So we're going to show you today how you can do it yourself, and it will be further on. But for now, just know that you have this pre-built themes folder, and instead of it, there are like 4 themes, I think, that you can use that were pre-built for you. The other thing is the material icons font that we're going to use with our MD icon component and the Roboto font. Here you can see we're initiating the HTML and the body with just all those init properties. So we're going to give you like 5 minutes to do it. We're going to spin around you. If you have questions, just raise your name. We'll play some music, and we'll see you in a bit. Thank you very much.
And what I also want to mention real quick is that this workshop is based on the material support for Angular 4. So as you notice here, we have the pre-built themes folder here. That's part of the latest version of Material, and it will be released soon. So please be sure that this will be released in the future, and it's not available yet. But you will have it in your workshop setup.
All right, go ahead.
So you can see here the main CSS. Just a heads up, you have the main CSS file here. That's actually not true because it's the styles.css file. So thank you to the guy that recognized it. So yeah.
Can all of you that finished raise your hand, please? All right, that's fair enough. So basically, if you want to catch up and you think you're behind of it, you can do it at home, and you can follow us with the workshop CLI that we provided you, just step by step, and it will take you to the current step we're working at. All right?
So now we're going to create our basic wireframe as we showed before in our README file. So we're going to add the MD toolbar MD toolbar component, and we're creating the MD sitenav container, including the MD sitenav. So let's just go below and check out the code. You can see that we are using, we're having our MD toolbar here using the primary color. So that's part of the material themes. You can specify different colors, like the accent color, the variant color, or the primary color. And we're just using the primary color here because it is the appropriate color here. And we're giving it like a title for our application, like Angular material. And no, you can go ahead.
All right. So as you see, we wrapped everything with a div container with two attributes that I'm going to talk about just in a minute. So we're going to use this div at the end, so stay with us. I wanted to give you a head start. And so basically what I'm saying to this div is that fx layout means, all right, you will be the layout container of all your children. And when I'm saying column, it says every children will be laid out in a column fashion. That means from top to bottom. So this toolbar will be at the top, and this side nav container will be below it. And by saying fx flex, I'm actually telling this div container, take whatever space you can. So if you don't know about Flex, I suggest you go read about Flex.css. It's just like from CSS tree. And so it just basically takes whatever space it can. And you can see we're doing it again on our side nav container because we're saying, all right, the toolbar will have its height and will be a fixed size of, I think, 64 on top, but I want the side nav container to take whatever space it can. So it will fill the entire page. The implementation of the side nav is pretty different from Material 1 because we wanted to have like a clear API where your side nav is going to be. So we made this side nav container when you'll put it whenever you want on your application, and you can make sure that the side nav will just make itself inside of it. You can see we're using mode and opened. So that basically means that the side nav will be on the side and will be defaultly be opened. Next to the side nav, we're going to have a content, which we're going to display the user's details later. And that's it for the HTML. Important thing to do is have in your app component CSS, have this width to the side nav, because by default, we didn't want it to have default sizes and default heights for our components. We wanted you to provide it because applications looks different. So just make sure you're using this width. And if not, you're just going to be small at the side. So we'll give you like 5 to 7 minutes. Go ahead if you have any questions, just raise your hand. And we'll be back. I got 1 thumbs up. All right, thank you very much. Paul, let's go.
So on step 3, we are going to fill our content, our site nav, with our tab group.
Actually, do you want to show the step 2 outcome?
Yeah, let's do that. So we're just going in our material workshop CLI and checking out step 2. And
that's it.
Then we can exit it.
Why would you?
So then it will just reload.
In a minute or so. All right, let's continue, and we'll show it in a minute.
So we are filling our site nav now with a tab group. That's an element or a component from material that will be provided for you. It allows you to have multiple tabs inside of the tab group. And we're adding the tab group element here, and we're adding an MD tab with the label of users. So that will be our users tab. And from the order, it will be our first tab. So we're inside of the tab, we're adding, so we also have the second tab, it's the settings tab, but it doesn't have any useful content inside of it. So in the first tab, we're adding the MD nav list, and that's also part of material component, material design, and you're able to create different list items with the styles from material. So you're iterating through all of the users that are provided in our app component. and we're just displaying the username.
Yeah, so basically, in material, we have two lists, but we are using the md-nav list because but we want our users list to be clickable. We want to click on users, and when we click on a username, it will change the selected user, and we'll see the details about him. So it should look like something like that. You'll see it. Let's see. Oh, right. So inside the component itself, we're going to add a users list. So you can just copy and paste it, or you go to this link here, which directs you to the full list of users that we are going to use. And that's basically it. We're going to have, I'm sorry that I'm rushing. We're going to have a nav list, and inside of the nav list, we're going to specify list item, and we're going to iterate of one of the users and show the username. Right? Go ahead, guys and girls. Are you guys ready to start again? I think you are. One moment.
So a lot of people run into the same issue that the site nav didn't take up the full height. That's because our app component didn't have the isn't exceeding or isn't using the full height. So you can just use the following code snippet. You're saying $host, colon host, and it will target the app component. And you're just saying display flex and flex 1. So it will use the full height because we specified the column layout here. And therefore, it will be the full height now, and the site nav container will show up.
All right. So let's go to step 4. So in step 4, we're going to actually, let me get it. All right. In step 4, we're going to actually use another component called md-icon. And remember that I said we had this avatar's SVG that we want to get SVG out of him. So let me just show it to you really quick. And this SVG is actually a group of other SVGs, right? And each one of them has an ID. You can see it here. So we're going to get those SVGs out of this group by using the md-icon. And to do it, we're going to ask for SVG icon, and we'll talk about it in a minute. And then we're going to pass an ID over here. And if we go to the definition here, you'll see that in the constructor, we have to inject two things. One is the icon registry that will allow us to actually go to this group and ask for the icons with the ID. And the other one is DOM sanitizer. By the way, we forgot to tell you to import it out of Angular. So I'm going to show this line of code right now. Sorry that I'm jumping. Do you want to talk, meanwhile, why are you using the DOM sanitizer?
Yeah, so the DOM sanitizer is actually used to avoid XSS attacks. So those are because you're passing an URL into the md-icon registry that can be unsafe. So because of that, we're using the DOM sanitizer to make sure that this link is secured by Angular and it comes from our component. So we need to use the DOM sanitizer, and we just call the bypass security or unsafe URL method, and then the URL will be trusted and the md-icon registry will accept it.
Right. So after we did that, after we made sure that this is a trusted URL, we're asking this avatar's SVG, it's a group, and then we're going to add to the registry an icon set, and we'll give it a name. So this function, add SVG icon set in a namespace, will actually get two parameters. The first is the name of this namespace, and the other one is where it should get it. So if we'll go back to the icon, we're going to use the same namespace. It's actually a name of the group, and we're going to ask for an ID inside of it. So if we'll go back to the users list, you'll see everyone has an ID of SVG ID, and then it will going to take it from the group over there. So one more thing.
Yeah, so you may have seen the class avatar we applied on the MD icon element. That's because we want to have the icon element to be bigger and use to be round. So we're just overriding it by creating the class and saying we want to have a width of 64 pixel and a height of 64 pixel, and we just say border radius 50%. And yeah, that's how we can override the custom components of material. And that's a pretty interesting one, the mat list item content. That's an element that's inside of an Angular material component and inside of, so Angular encapsulates all of the style sheets or selectors so they don't go outside of the coding component. So using the deep prefix here allows you to reach to the all child components and to the whole app actually. So that's, this allows us to override the height of the list items, because by default they have a fixed height and we want the list items to grow.
So that's like, how do you, if you want to override material, that's how you do it. You can use the deep selector, and you can use add important to just make it happen. So it will give you like 7 more minutes to do it. And in the meantime, I'm going to show you what is the outcome of this lab.
Please raise your hand if you're done and ready for the next step. Okay, that's good.
Fair. Yeah.
So we're going to the next step. So we talked about the deep selectors and the list items here. So let's go to step 5.
You can show it.
Yeah, let's just quickly show how it should look like. You have the nav list here with the icons from the namespace, and you have the tabs here and the toolbar, and that's the content. So if it looks like that, then you're very good. So let's move ahead. So on step 5, we're adding the selected user functionality. That means if you click on a user here, it will show the content based on the user, on the current user. So let's just go ahead. We just add a click handler here that sets a property on the app component, the selected user property, to the user that we're iterating over. So that's our ng4, and once the user clicks on the MD list item, the selected user property will be set to the user. So then we can take a look at the content, because that's the other thing that has changed in our app HTML file. We are showing the same MD icon we are using on the side nav, but this time notice we are using selected user instead of user, because we want to show it from the selected user. And the same, we are applying the class avatar here because we want to have it round and bigger, and just printing out some of the object information of the selected user. And in our TypeScript file, we are just adding the selected user property and setting it by default to the first selected to the first user. So by default, the first user will be selected by default. And just for some styling, we are using a padding on our content so it doesn't look that weird. And yeah, so we can show it to you real quick. And that's how it should look like. And you can click through the different users, and the content will be updated based on that. Yeah.
So go ahead, like 5 minutes, it's pretty short. All right, I think we're going to continue. So after we had selected user functionality, and we're having our master little view that we can actually play with, we want to actually make it, we want to display, all right, I was thinking about another step, but I'm going to fix it. So what we want to do next is I want to wrap everything here into a more fashionable way. So because of that, we're going to use something called MD card. MD card is just a wrapper that gives you a card, and we're going to have another card that we're going to use MD slide toggle here to actually show another properties that our users have. So each user have is admin or is cool, and we want to show it. So what's cool about these steps is we're going to show you how you can make your application responsive with the flex layout system. So as you can see, we have our content here, and we're going to say that our content is going to be in a row fashion. And it's going to be on a row fashion by default. But if it's a small screen, then you should be a column. So that way you can tell, then the Flex Layout engine will just handle it for you. And that way you can make your application responsive. We're also going to use a thing called FX Layout Gap that will apply 16 pixels margin to any direct child of this container. So you can, instead of making classes, you can just use this layout gap, and it will make sure that you have a gap between each child. We're going to use FX Flex here as 80, and that will mean that the card will take 80% of the content available, and the other card will take whatever it can. And also you see we're using gap here of 14 pixels. So the cool thing about our slide toggles is that they're actually just like a checkbox, and they're actually using a checkbox behind, but they support gestures and user interaction. But to make it work with actual user interaction, we're using a framework that's called Hammer.js. So you don't have to use it, but if you want, you can just import it in your app module.ts, and Material will just hook to it, and will support all the gestures and touch devices and everything. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, you will get a warning by, if you don't use Hammer.js, but as soon as you go into production mode with Angular, it will automatically disappear. So it's just for development, and it should make you aware of the fact that you're not using Hammer.js, and that some components are depending or not depending on Hammer.js, but they could work with Hammer.js. So
yeah. So you can see I have a touchscreen, and I can actually play with it. It's small, but I can actually play with it. So go ahead and wrap it with cards and all the other things. And there you go. Go ahead.
So are you guys ready? Or please raise your hand if you're ready.
Most of them.
Okay. And please don't forget, if you run into any problems, please raise your hand. So please raise your hand if you now have any problems.
They're not listening to you.
Looks like it. So
if you have any help during our talk, we have Thomas here and help me.
And Miles from the Material team.
Yeah. So they can help you. They're both working on Material, so they can help as well. So anyone have problems, they can help you. Raise your hand. None of them.
Okay.
Everyone here is just a great developer.
So that's how the app should look like, as Elad showed already. You can have your slide toggle here, and you can drag it as soon as you imported Hammer.js. And now let's move on to step 7. So step 7 is actually pretty interesting because it's about the theming in Material and how it works. So you can import the Material theme mixins, but please be sure to use Sass, because Material only provides Sass mixins right now, but so you have to use the SCSS files to create your custom theme.
The thing about Material 2 themes is, unlike, as I said before, unlike the Material 1, we're not generating themes on the fly. You must have a theme pre-built by yourself or by ourselves, so you can have your theme built, so you can actually have it as a CSS file. That's because we had so many issues building it on the fly with IE support and other browsers. So we decided it's probably for the best if you do it this way. So
yeah, that way, because we are providing the SAS sheet for you and you're responsible for creating your theme, your build process can run auto prefixer and stuff like that to ensure that it works with the browser you're supporting. So that's a cool thing with the new theming. So at first we're including our core styles because those are not themable, but need to be part of the material style sheet. So we include that one.
It has inside of it ripples and all the basic things that materials need in your theme.
So, and next we're creating a variable inside of SAS that's called primary. It will be our primary palette, and we can specify our color here. It will be the red color as our primary color, and the same for accent. We're having the blue color as our accent palette, and yeah, so once we have those variables, we can create our theme using the matte light theme mixin, and we just pass in our primary palette and our accent palette. So yeah, and as soon as we have our theme variable, we can just create it using the Angular material theme mixin, and it will generate the CSS on compilation.
Another more important thing to do is because we added another entry point, a CSS entry point, a SAS entry point, call it whatever you want, we must make sure that our Angular CLI can actually collect it and build it when it starts up. So you have to go to your Angular CLI.json and add in the styles list, add the themes SCSS file. And then you can actually you need to reboot your application, and it will just do it for you. Just make sure you can just remove the theme that we included on step 1, the first line over there. And the end result of this step is you'll just have the same application as before, just with red primary and blue accent. So go ahead and do it.
And please raise your hand if you have any questions, as always.
So we thought that we're going to only make it to step 8 today, but you guys are pretty amazing. So claps for you, really. Because you're doing it really fast, and so we're going to actually do step 9 and even make it to 10, so good for you. So on step 10, what we're actually going to do is we're going to add another theme in our application. And the cool thing about our theme system is that it works with, let's say, classes, or you can generate a theme per area in your application. By that, I mean I can have a class called dark theme, and whenever I apply this class on an element, the entire material components underneath it will be styled as this dark theme style. All right? So to make it, it's just simple as that. We're going to create another dark primary variable. We're going to use the light blue for this one. We're going to do the accent here. We're going to use green. We're going to create another dark theme. But be noticed that we're changing the mixin that we're using to dark because we want it to be dark. And we're going to include, again, the material theme and this variable. And from that moment on, whenever I will apply the dark theme class on every element, the entire components underneath it will just be styled as the theme. And we're actually going to use other components from material to just toggle between those themes. So if you remember, I told you we're going to have this div wrapper upon everything for a later use. So this is the later use. We're going to have a class here. We can bind this class attribute .dark theme. That's the way we can do it in Angular 2. And we can bind it to a variable that we're having on our component. So we're going to have a isDarkTheme variable on our component. And if we go to the component, we'll see that we're instanted it as false. So another thing we're going to do is we're going to use the menu. Do you want to explain about the menu?
Sure. So the menu is actually a component that will just pop up. It's like an overlay, and you can see it here. That's the MD menu. The MD menu is actually just the content that will pop up, and you would create a template variable here, and you can specify the position. But currently, the material menu isn't able to recognize the best position, so you have to use it manually. But we're adding support in the future, so we just say it should open from before the X position, and inside of the pop-up we're adding, or the menu, we're adding a button that is clickable, and we're assigning the click handler to it, and it will toggle the isDark variable. And the interesting thing about the menu here is that you don't know how to open it right now, but there is a cool thing. We have the button element here, and we just apply the MD menu trigger 4 directive and say it and assign it to the theme menu variable that we created here. So once the click handler is triggered on the button, the theme menu will be opened, and it automatically will show up the pop-up, and inside of the button we have an MD icon button, and we're using MD icon, and Elad is going to explain what this more word text actually means here.
Yeah. So just one more thing about the icon, the button here, is that this button here is the trigger for the menu, right? So it actually says it in the attribute that we're binding to. It says, you should open the menu when I trigger this button. And this is the name of the menu that we give it in the HTML, right, with this sign here. So enough about that. I'm going to explain about the icon here. So beforehand, we used icon to give it an SVG SRC and to show our avatars. But here we were using it differently. We're giving it like a name or something like that. So basically, what MD icon will do for you is if it recognizes the material icons that we imported on the first step, if it recognizes this font that is available, it will find a ligature inside this font that is called morvert. And I'm going to show it to you, actually. You have this material icon from the material design team. And there are many fonts that you can use. And right here below, I don't know if you can see it, it's like the name, go too deep. It's like the name of the ligature. So you can select, and you can find the actual name of the icon that you want, and then just write it inside the MD icon, and it will fetch it for you from the font that you used.
And what I also want to mention here is you saw that some icons have a space between the words in the icon, and the space can be replaced by an underscore, and that will be the ligature name. So yeah.
Yeah. Maybe you can see it here. Yeah. So you can see event sit. This is the name inside the font. Also, we are using something called MD icon button. This will tell the button that wraps the icon, hey, this is not a regular button, this is an icon button. You should be around. You should support a ripple from the center of the button, not like a ripple that goes on the entire button. And you should adjust yourself to the size of the icon, because a regular button is not the same as an icon button. So it will adjust itself to the icon itself. So another cool thing that we're doing here is we're using this filler, this space filler. We're having a span between the title, the span title, and the button, and we're giving it FX flex. And that trick will actually take this span and expand it as how much it can, and will push the button, the icon button, to the right, and will push the title to the left. And that way you can space things up in your toolbar.
Yeah, that's only the flex, FX flex actually works because the toolbar under the hood uses flexbox to align and stretch the row of the toolbar. So that way you're able to use FX flex to stretch the span container to fill and move the button to the end of your page.
Right. So you should get this working. It's not that complicated, I think. And if you have any questions, don't be shy. Raise your hand, and we will help you. All right, let's continue.
So just to show how the app should look like actually right now, we need to check it out. So you go to step, what step was it? We were at step 9.
Yes, we'll go to step 8.
The mouse is kind of weird here. So step 9.
No, all right.
And there you go. You have like the menu here, and you can toggle the theme. And that's how your app should actually look like. So now let's go ahead with step
9.
Step 9. And so we're still having our menu here. It's just to know that where you have to place your Fab button. You can place a button. So basically, we're going to create a dialog for material, an Angular material dialog here that will allow you to, at the end, that will allow you to add new users to your page. So we're going to create a button here that's an MD Fab. A Fab button is actually a button that is also round, and it will take the accent color by default, and it will float at the page. So we are saying, so we want it at the bottom right.
Yeah, just notice that we don't have the class pasted here, so I'll show you where to find it.
We have to create the class on our own, so Material doesn't provide any pre-built selectors that allow you to move it to the bottom right, to the bottom top, to the bottom right or left, and stuff like that. So
yeah, so just basically position fixed, right 16 pixels, bottom 16 pixels. So that way we can place it on below right.
Exactly. And we're attaching a click handler to the button that will open an admin dialog. It's a function that will be invoked in the component, and we're also using an MD icon here, the add literature, and it's like the plus symbol you get on the Fab button. And yeah, let's move on to the component, and we're having the function that I was talking about, and you're calling dialog.open, and you're passing in a component. So important is to inject the dialog here. You're injecting the dialog token from material, and the dependency injection will take care of it. And notice we're using the private property here. That's important because it's not important. It's useful because if you do that, it will be automatically a member of your class, and you can just use it. You don't have to assign it on the inside of the constructor again. So yeah, and also important to mention, we're using private here on that method. If you're using AOT mode, you will probably run into issues because by default, methods and variables that are accessed by the template need to be public. Otherwise, the AOT compilation is not able to call the method. So please be sure to, or always remember that you make the things that are accessed from the template public.
All right. So let's actually create the dialog. So to be able to show the dialog, we need to, as Paul said, we need to inject the dialog service. And we're actually going to create another component called the dialog. And it will be just a regular component. And inside of it, we're going to just use this attribute here, MD dialog title, that will give it the style of the dialog. And we're going to use MD dialog content to show the content inside. And the important thing to do is actually to import the dialog component that you just created and make it as an entry point for your ng module, because this is it's just like an outside entry, an outside component that we're going to generate on the fly, because every time you're going to open a dialog, it will going to create it again. So it is important to tell Angular, hey, this is if you're going to ask for this dialog, just use this component. And you should also add it to the declarations here, so you can use it.
Yeah, actually, you always add components that are rendered dynamically or built dynamically. You add it to the entry components. That's really important.
All right. So go ahead, make that dialog, and we'll be here if you need us.
Are you guys ready, or please raise your hand if you are ready.
All right, it's a fair amount.
Okay.
All right, so this is the last step of the tutorial.
Let him show the dialog how it looks like actually.
Oh yeah, we can do that. So I currently have it. The dialog currently should look. Wait a second.
And let it rebuild. So
let's go to step 10. Right. Let's reboot. Right, for now, let's see what we're going to do on step 10. So step 10 is a way for you guys to actually use forms, like simple forms. And with that, you can add users to your users list and have like a functional app that you can see users and you can add users and play with it. So inside the dialog, we're going to actually use a form here, and we're going to give it a name with this pound form, and we're going to tell it you should be an instance of ng-form. It's a module from Angular. And whenever you submit, you should close the dialog and pass the form value, all right? We also gives it this attribute called ng-native validate, and that means that every input that we have that will have a required attribute, it will validate it and will not let us save in case we didn't add any name, right? So it will pop the field of the native browser.
And just as a side note, if you're creating a form element inside of an Angular application, it will automatically turn into an Angular form by default. You don't have to apply any Angular directive on it. It will be a form by default.
Yeah. So inside of it, we're going to play with it a bit, have flex layout the containers and align stuff, which is it's not that matter, but we're going to have the same icon as before. We're going to use md-select, which actually implements a select functionality for you. And just like you're used to use the select, you have md option inside of it. And we're going to iterate of all the avatars. And here it's just like a hack for us, so we can actually show the avatar number. So it seems like something like that. You can choose avatars. And we're binding the ng model to the selected avatar, so it will be registered in the form, and we can actually see it live. So there's that. We're having an input that we want to be an MD input, so we give it this attribute. And we're going to say, this is an MG model, you should bind yourself to the form, and this is your name. And we're having a placeholder. So you can see it's like a regular input that you're using. It's the native input from HTML, but we're having it inside an MD input container, so we can style it and we can let it behave like a material input. Same goes for text area. You see we support rows and calls, that it's the basic native element. You can see we're using MD checkbox here, that same as before we had a slide toggle, we're just having checkboxes to select if it's admin or it's cool.
And you probably wonder why we don't have like any value bound to the ng-model directive here. That's because we are setting the isAdmin name here on the element and the isCool name here. And therefore, the forms module of Angular recognizes the input or the form control by its name and will group it together. And because we don't need to access it from the template anywhere else, we're just saying ng-module, and the ng-model directive will register it in the form. So, yeah.
So at the bottom of the dialog, we're going to have an actions, which will be aligned to the end, and two buttons, one to close the dialog, and the other one to save. Buttons by default are type submit, so they will submit the form. So this is like the form that you're going to use, you're going to implement. And just in your dialog component, we want to, as before, we want to have the dialog ref, so we can inject it into our component and use it in the HTML, so we can close and save values from it. And also, we're initiating an array to have our SVG's IDs, because it goes from 1 to 16, and the selected user, which is, the selected avatar, which is by default the first avatar of the list.
And notice that we're using the public modifier here. Again, it will add it to the component instance or to the class instance, and therefore you can use it inside of your template by calling dialogref.close without having like to do this dot dialog equals dialog. So you don't have to pass in the constructor parameters to the class instance. That will be part of TypeScript if you're using public or private. So that's pretty cool.
All right. So after we did that, we can see that we ask the form that when we submit, it will send the form value. So we want, in our app component, we want to say, when I open the dialog, I want to bind myself to an after close function. And that after close function will give me, as you can see, it's
an observable.
An observable, yes, thank you. An observable, then when I'll get, I filter all the empty result if there is one, and then I can get the user back from the form, back from the dialog, and add it to my users list. And just, of course, select it because I just created it. All right? Just one thing about it, that if we want to share the avatar class that we made in the beginning, we need, because of the dialog is another part of our application, it goes, we create it on the fly, then the avatar is not recognizable over there because it's been inserted to the body. So what we have to do is we have to use the deep selector again and make it a strong type with MD icon so it will be applied in the dialog itself. If we won't do it, and then the avatar will just the class won't be applied upon it. So there you go. Go ahead and have it, and then we'll probably summarize in like 4 minutes. All right, guys, before you leave, we just wanted to say thank you for coming. We had really much, we had fun. We hope that you had fun as well. If you have any questions, you can ping us online. We're available on Twitter, LinkedIn, Slack, whatever you want.
Yeah, we will be around afterwards as well. So
yeah, we're here. If you find us, you have a question, just don't be shy. We won't bite you. Thank you all for coming. We enjoyed. I know. If you guys as well, thank you very much. Thank you.